How many of you are familiar with the, I believe it's Secretary of State in Colorado and what's going on over there? Shout out to my man Rob, Blacklight Revelations. He's the one that put me on to this story. If you're not familiar with what's going on in Colorado, well, let me introduce you to this story. Now, of all people who broke this story, I was highly shocked and highly surprised that it came from this man right here, Kyle Clark. Kyle Clark is a news anchor, a local news anchor for 9 News Colorado. This man is DNC to the core. He is DNC to the core. But he broke this story and pressed the Colorado Secretary of State, Jena Griswold, as you can see in this tweet here and in the interview that I'm going to play. Colorado Secretary of State Jena Griswold called a 2021 leak of voting system passwords by a Republican clerk a serious breach of voting system security protocols. But Griswold tells me that her office leak of voting system passwords is not a serious breach. So when it happened on the Republican side, this was a serious breach. But now when it happens on her side as a Democrat, it's not that big of a deal. But wait, there's more, because there seems to be a pattern with Ms. Griswold, her administration, you can say, and just shenanigans surrounding voting, we'll say. Okay, we have to make sure that we tread lightly when speaking on this stuff on YouTube. Griswold's office has made a series of errors undermining voter confidence, mailing voter registration invites to 30,000 non-citizens, wrongly notifying voters they hadn't voted, and leaking voting machine passwords. I asked Griswold if she will resign. Absolutely not, is what she said. Let's get into this right now. I want to play this clip for you before we continue on with this discussion. Let's jump into this here.
First time that your office has made mistakes that have damaged voters' confidence in our elections. In 2022, your office sent out mailers to 30,000 non-citizens inviting them to register to vote. They, of course, are not eligible to register to vote. That same year, your office used Colorado's ballot tracking system to send messages to specific Coloradans encouraging them to vote when, in fact, they had already voted, causing confusion that had to be cleaned up by the county clerks. And now this leak of the voting system passwords. Given your office's repeated errors that have damaged confidence in our elections, which you say is paramount, will you resign?
Absolutely not, Kyle. And I just want to,
Why would she have to resign when she's Team DNC? I'll let her finish speaking in a moment. I'll let her finish and give her explanation in a moment. But she's Team DNC. Resign for what? As long as we're in power, nothing's going to happen. She'll mess around and send another 30,000 voter registration forms to 30,000 non-citizens. Nothing's going to come about it, despite a repeated pattern. These aren't coincidences anymore, in my opinion, what I think, what I believe, what I assume, right? But this isn't just oopsies, right? That's not what this is anymore. She's gone far beyond oopsies at this point. When you're talking about sending out 30,000 voter registration forms to non-citizens, 30,000, you're wrongfully notifying voters that they haven't voted, and you're leaking voting machine passwords. That's a pattern of intentional negligence, in my opinion. That's just what I think, what I believe, what I assume. It's very intentional. This isn't oopsies. And when you're talking about 30,000 mailers going out to 30,000 non-citizens, you're talking about margin of error numbers at this point. Those are margin of error numbers, okay? Those are the numbers that swing a state from left to right. That's the number of mailers that she sent out to non-citizens. but let's let her explain, right? Let's see whatever she's going to say and whatever she's going to talk about. Let's get into this, and also hit the like button if you haven't already. So he asked her, are you going to resign? And she very smugly and arrogantly said, absolutely not.
Absolutely not, Kyle. And I just want to, you're unfairly characterizing and leaving out some crucial information. We came out immediately and said a postcard had been sent out to people who are ineligible. The postcard clearly stated that someone had to be a U.S. citizen. No one tried to register from that group of people. We were actively tracking it. And it became a situation where no one registered. And to push.
That doesn't matter, but I'll get into that in a moment when we hop into another story very similar to this, and I believe it was St. Louis, Missouri.
Back even further, Kyle, Colorado is tied for #1 in confidence in the country in our elections. We have stood up to situations time and time again to protect the right of Coloradans, going over and beyond what anybody would ask of civil servants in this office.
Given the number of fundamental errors that your office has made that have undermined voter confidence in elections, why do you think they keep happening?
Why do errors happen? Kyle, there are...
Because they're intentional, in my opinion, what I think, what I believe, what I assume. I don't know this at the point of fact. It's just what I think, what I believe, and what I assume. Are we still, do we still have the freedom of speech to where you can just, just my assumption of things? I'm sorry. I'll let her continue.
Why do errors happen? Kyle, there are unfortunately situations that arise every election that we are fixing as quickly as possible in the counties and once in a while from my office too.
This ended perfectly, and that is definitely going on a thumbnail for sure. Once again, this isn't oopsies. When the same type of errors, air quote errors, continue to occur surrounding voting, at a certain point, like I said, you got to go past oopsies and just recognize the pattern of something that appears to be happening intentionally and deliberately. And it doesn't matter that apparently, allegedly, because we don't really know this to be, I don't know this to be true. Allegedly, nobody attempted to register, I guess, but that's irrelevant. Even if that's true, you sent out 30,000 registration forms to non-citizens and none of them filled it out, I guess, allegedly. It's irrelevant that none of them filled it out if that's true. And I'm going to get into that in a moment, why it's irrelevant, as I use this next story to piggyback off of this one.